morning. Welcome to the show. This is For the Health of It this morning. I am Dr. Scott Phillips, your host, local chiropractor, owner of Lifestyle Chiropractic and Wellness Center in the Clock Tower building. And we're excited to be here this morning. I say we because there are people here in the in the station, not just me and someone like a mouse in my pocket or something. So here we are. We're going to talk about some fun things today. It is October 16th, and it is fall break. And I guess I had to think this morning the time that I finally realized that that adults don't get all the same breaks as the kids do in school. And I don't think my kids quite realize that yet. You know, like, why are you getting ready? What is going on? Today is a break for everyone. So obviously it isn't, unfortunately. And the other thing, Sandy, if you're listening, I have to apologize. I did not even read this note until right now. There was an ad I was supposed to play in the CD player, but I am ready to talk about cowboy poetry. So let's talk about some of the events that are coming up. I know the radio station is a big supporter of cowboy poetry, and that is coming up soon, October 29th to November 2nd. You can get tickets at hvcpg.com, which I'm thinking stands for Heber Valley Cowboy Poetry Gathering, which actually says it right there, so I didn't even have to guess, but it was a good guess. Obviously, anyone that's been to this event before knows how fun it can be, knows how great it is, and how fun it is for the community. People come from all over the place, which is just fantastic. So mark your calendars there again, October 29th through November 2nd. I don't know if it's ever been over Halloween before. I'm interested here if they're going to do any kind of cowboy Halloween. I don't know, maybe you go trick-or-treating for baked beans or something. I have no idea how that would work, but feel free to mark your calendars. Like I say, get out to that. Great time for a lot of people that are going to be here from out of town. They're going to check out our fun little valley. So let us talk about some other events. Again, last week we talked about our fundraiser coming up on the 25th. It is for alopecia. It is being organized by Colleen Anderson, and she is really, really excited about this. Again, we're going to have a 5K, and then after is a Halloween party. And the fun part about the Halloween party is that if you don't want to run the 5K for $30, you can just come to the Halloween party for $5. So for $5, you can show up, have a great Halloween party. That's the 25th of October. And I asked her if there was anything else we need to announce about it, and she said she has added a chili cook-off. So come to the Halloween party. If you want to participate in the chili cook-off, you should do that also. But if not, come and try some of the chili. So she said the easiest way is just to kind of get onto Facebook and just search out Run for Your Life 5K. And you can put alopecia in there also, and that can help you find it. So that is coming up. And then the other event that I wanted to talk about is going to actually introduce my first guest this morning. There is talk about walk. That was something I just put together right there. That's pretty good. And so let me also introduce Miss Robin. Robin, I have now... Lloyd, thank you, sheesh. I wrote down your last name. Robin Lloyd is here. She's going to talk about a little group that she's trying to put together, and we're going to talk a little bit about why it's important to walk. So, Robin, say hello to everybody.
Good morning.
Tell me what even gave you this idea, why you think this is good. I mean, you can walk by yourself. Why help other people?
Well, I think the idea of having friendships while you're walking and encouragement is really important.
Sure.
It keeps you honest, keeps you going. I think it's a great thing.
So that's something we've even talked about in here is some of these studies that have been done, people trying to lose weight, trying to change their lifestyles. When there isn't any kind of support group, when there isn't any people to check into, right, or to be accountable to, maybe would be a good way to say it, that people are way less diligent, I guess would be the word. And so this can be a great thing, right? I mean, get to know some people in the community, get to be a little bit accountable to some people, and get out walking. I mean, that's the thing is the research about what you have to do. Again, I feel like I'm on this crusade to debunk the idea that exercise has to be this terrible negative thing, right? And when I lived in Texas, I can guarantee that it kind of was, because it was so hot outside, right? Anytime you wanted to go outside and exercise, it was almost a death sentence. And so here we are in Heber Valley, where it's not anymore. It's not a death sentence. You can go outside, you can walk, you can get some great health benefits. So give some details about it. What are you trying to do? When are we meeting? All that kind of stuff.
Well, the idea is to meet at Southfield Park in the beginning, and that is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:30 a.m.
Okay.
And then Tuesday and Thursday at 6:30 p.m. And the reason I wanted us to meet there is so that we can gather together, decide where we'd like to walk.
Sure.
There's so many beautiful places here in the valley that we could walk
Right.
and hike. And so we kind of want to mix it up, but I wanted to get everyone's ideas as to what they'd prefer to do.
Sure, sure.
And we want to start slow and work our way up toward a 5K
Awesome.
eventually, and I think that's a really good goal.
Yeah, yeah.
And we might even do a health cooking class or two in the upcoming months.
Sure.
And so, yeah.
Now, it's starting to get colder. I don't like to bring this up because it's always something that we like to close our eyes and plug our ears about. Tell me what the idea there would be. Is there any indoor venues that you can think about? Or
Well, I know we have the recreation center
Sure.
where they have a walking path. And
Definitely,
so we
definitely.
could use that. And I think getting outdoors in the weather is actually good. We have
Sometimes
a lot of
it's
sunny
okay,
days.
huh? That's true. I guess we all think that every day in the winter it just dumps snow and it's
No.
20, and 20 below. And so, yeah, you could definitely still meet out. Now, 10:30 in the morning sounds like a good time for moms, have kids at home, probably strollers welcome, would you think?
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
absolutely.
good. And 6:30 is a good time to tell, if it's a woman, say, hey, husband, you're in charge of dinner and putting the kids to bed. I'm going walking, right?
And times are flexible. We can certainly add or remove walk times. It just depends on what everyone's needs are.
So again, I don't think I need to, and maybe Dr. Tayler, I'll have you kind of chime in here also, because as a healthcare practitioner and as an active person yourself, I can be sure that you've seen health benefits from people getting active. But I know that when people start to feel like, hey, I want to get out, I want to do some things, that one little decision sometimes is almost this domino of tipping over other good decisions. So I love the idea of that, healthy cooking class. Right now I'm starting to move a little bit, I'm starting to feel a little bit better, and now when I eat the junk that I've been eating, I don't feel as good, or I can feel it when I'm trying to walk, so maybe I should start eating better and all that kind of stuff. Maybe I should start sleeping more. All of these kind of better health decisions start to come up. I don't know, Dr. Tayler, you seen any of that?
Absolutely. I think the most critical thing, regardless of what exercise you do, is just the consistency of it.
Right.
That seems what builds cardiovascular health, and so I think this idea of getting together regularly is a wonderful one.
Because isn't it fun to, someone's going to get inspired today and they're going to say, all right, I'm going to do it. Tomorrow I'm starting, and they get out and they're going to run 15 miles and they've never ran in their lives. Right, or they're going to go to the gym and they are going to put on the weight and they are going to push their hearts out.
And end up in the hospital.
And then the next morning they're going to think, why did I do that?
They're coming to see me.
Then we'll go see Dr. Tayler. And so I think it's such a great way to just kind of get going, right? And say, hey, you know what, a 5K is a great goal. And let's start walking. Let's start to get to know each other. Let's have some people that we're accountable to. I really, really think it's a great event. I hope people can support you on it, Robin. Tell me the easiest way for people. I know you got a Facebook page.
We do. It is Wasatch Walking Club on Facebook.
And so check out Wasatch Walking Club. Join, like it, whatever it is. I can't remember all of the things you
Both.
have to do. Okay, perfect. And then let's get together. Let's get out and walk. And it could be a great first step, pun intended, in people getting healthier. So thank you so much for coming out and talking about that a little bit. Tell me, anything else you want people to say to know that you're just dying to?
I do have a quote I'd like to read.
Read the
That's all
quote.
right.
We love quotes.
The door to balanced success opens widest on the hinges of hope and encouragement. Zig
There
Ziglar.
you go. And Zig's he's got some good quotes.
Yes.
That's a fantastic one. So let's get that walking group going huge. I think it should be almost people should be driving down the road looking and seeing, wow, what's that big group of people doing?
Absolutely.
And even if it's cold and somewhat snowy. And if there's ice, just be careful.
Yes.
Because then if they slip, then they're coming to my office. Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A couple of things that kind of rolled across my my interest, I guess, this last week. The first thing, this is something that is a new thing. Halloween's coming up, and I'm always somewhat conflicted about what to do with Halloween because it's kind of this. I almost want to start calling it, Diabetes Encouragement Day or something like that. But I try not to be that big of a Scrooge about things. But this was interesting. I don't know if anyone out there has heard about this Teal Pumpkin Project. And so what this is people are sort of banding together in support of kids with food allergies. And so someone that comes in with like a peanut allergy or a milk allergy that can't eat chocolate, all that kind of stuff, and obviously parents can be very, very concerned about taking these kids trick-or-treating. And so the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases came out with an idea to put together. The group is the Food Allergy Research and Education Organization, and so they said if you will paint one of your pumpkins teal and put it out, then that signifies that you're offering some non-food allergy safe type of treat. And so if you're giving out, now again as a kid, those are the worst houses, right? For me, I'm like, oh, really, a pencil? I just wasted that time going up the walkway. But these kids and these parents, especially with these kids with food allergies, it can be a very nervous time. They put the wrong thing in their mouth. And again, we're in Dr. Taylor's office. Probably not your office, probably the emergency room a lot of the times. And so this is just kind of for your information if you don't know about this yet, and it's something that you'd like to support. If you put out that teal pumpkin, and give out something that's a little safer for those kids with food allergies, that can be a kind of a fun thing for them. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting thing to check out. Especially, I know that we know that food allergies are on the rise, and so that's affecting a lot more people than it used to. And then the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about in correlation with this idea of this walking group is this study that just came out. I'm reading it off of Fox News' health site. And the study says exercising 3 times a week significantly cuts depression risk. Now, the significant cut is around 16%. If you just exercise 3 times a week, odds of developing depression cuts by about 16%. Which I think is a pretty significant study. Robin, I don't know if you knew that was part of the benefits of even just getting out 3 times a week.
Absolutely.
But we know that depression is something that definitely affects a lot of people. In fact, one of the most common forms of mental illness says it affects more than 350 million people worldwide, which is a lot of people. In fact, it is ranked by the World Health Organization as the leading cause of disability globally. So if you want to cut your risk by 16%, all you got to do is get out 3 times. And then they said if you do more than 3 times, it actually continues to cut the whatever you want to call it, your risk, right? And then people that are already suffering from it, then also when they get out, then they seem to do a lot better also. So really nice little article, like I say, to kind of go along with what we're talking about anyway. So if you're thinking that, life's not that great right now, maybe let's join the walking club and see if that helps you out for sure. Okay, so let's get on to our next guest, and I've already said your name, so I guess it's not any kind of, and of course I put it out on Facebook that you were going to be on. So this is Dr. Greg Tayler, and the first thing I want to do is clear something up. Probably the most common misconception that I've noticed about you, and I don't know if you know what this is.
I'm ready.
Your last name is spelled Tayler.
That's true.
Okay, so I think that that's something that everyone needs to know, because I've seen your name spelled the other way many, many times.
Yeah, if you ever meet anyone with that spelling, they're almost certainly related to me.
So I just, like I say, I think this show should be about really breaking down barriers and misconceptions about people. So that's the biggest one that I know about you.
Good start.
So Dr. Taylor's you're a general practitioner right here in the Valley.
Yeah, I do family medicine here in the Valley.
Awesome. And your office is over there kind of in the hospital complex.
Hospital. Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk about tons of things today. The one thing I really notice and know about you for sure is your own active lifestyle and passion that you have just for that. And I think hopefully what you do is and not even by word, but even just by example, I know that can bleed into a lot of what you do with your patients. And for me, right, and even being in chiropractic school, doctor would tell me what to do, and I'd go outside after my visit, and I'd look out, and he was on a smoke break. Right? And I'm like, wait, hold on, what's going on here? And so when we want to go to people that want to tell us how to be healthy, we want to make sure that they're kind of living that same lifestyle. So that's something that I want to say that I've noticed for sure, and hopefully the people that you see have noticed also. So I guess the first question I'd have for you that's not really a hard one, hopefully, is what got you involved in medicine? What made you passionate about it? What made that the career path of choice?
It kind of started along with the athletic stuff that I do. When I was in high school, I ran cross country and track, and would get injured a lot. And when I'd ask my coach, coach, it hurts when I move my leg like this, his response was always, well, don't move your leg like that. Get back out there. And so
that sounds like a pretty good treatment plan.
Yeah, as far as that went. And so I actually bought a sports medicine book and kind of read it and just was amazed by it and devoured it. And figured I could start treating my own sports injuries.
Sure.
And after a while, my teammates started to realize that I had actually learned something from this book, and they started asking me questions, and I actually got the nickname Doc on my cross-country team. And so it kind of went from there.
It stuck a little bit.
It stuck, and I decided I loved that sports medicine and wanted to kind of pursue it.
So your first practice was as a high school
Exactly.
student.
Practicing without a license.
We've all done that. No. So that's really neat. And then tell me where you did all your education, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I went to medical school at the University of Utah, and then did family practice residency at McKay. I had originally planned to be an orthopedist. That was the plan, do sports medicine, be an orthopedist. And when I got into medical school, I discovered two things. One was that orthopedics wasn't as interesting as I thought, the screws and hammers and expensive drills.
Right.
But what I was fascinated by was everything else. I did an OB rotation, decided, wow, I love to deliver babies. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then did a pediatrics rotation, decided I love to see kids. This is what I want to do.
Right.
Did a surgery rotation, loved that. So every time I did a new rotation, I thought, this is what I want to do. And in the end, it just has kind of turned into family medicine in a rural practice, because I can do all of those things.
And you do all those things.
Yeah, for the most part, we do all of those things. And that's what I love about family medicine, especially here in Heber.
Now tell me where you're from originally.
From Salt Lake. I grew up in Salt Lake.
And went to med school just down the road then.
Yeah, one of those guys that couldn't leave town.
And what brought you up this way? Was it just the rural setting? Did you have any kind of, had you been up here before and thought, hey, this is where I want to live type of thing?
Yeah, my wife's grandmother, Lib Castleton, lived here for many, many years, and we came up and helped her, even before we were married. And very early on, we decided this is where we wanted to be.
Yeah.
And it just took 10 years and training to get here, but yeah, no, this was the plan from really day one.
Good. Well, I know we're excited to have you in the Valley. I know you've been practicing here how long now?
16 years.
Yeah, so you've been here a bit.
Been here a while.
And longer than me, so it's funny that feel like I'm introducing you. One of the points of the show, like I say in the intro to the show, is that I want people to get to know some of these practitioners maybe that they don't even know. So there could be someone listening that has never met you before.
I'm sure there are.
And the other fun thing is when someone on Facebook says, hey, I'm looking for a whatever, it's fun to just kind of link them to a show and say, hey, here you can get to know this person and see, before you go in if you like them. Well, so no pressure, by the way, but you have to be very likable today.
I'll do my best. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
No, you're doing really, really well for sure. And so I guess the hot topic, right, that's coming up, and I guess one of the good reasons to have you on here is we want to talk a little bit about the Aquatic Center. And I want full disclosure for people to know that I am also a proponent. Someone that has even donated to the cause. So if they see the T-shirts, then my logo's on there. So I don't want to come across as an unbiased participant. But obviously we want to talk both sides and just kind of get people informed, because I think that's the way for people to make a good decision, to make sure they're most informed. Absolutely. So tell me what the passion there was for you, Dr. Tayler, and then also I want, if you don't mind, kind of trace through how long it's been since you've sort of been, because I know you've been a proponent for a very long time. And I think some people, when they go in to vote, won't see all that work that you and others have done and just think, oh, someone thought we should have an aquatic center, so now we're voting on it. we put it on the ballot 2 days ago, type of thing. So kind of trace us through kind of what it takes to get that kind of emotion onto the ballots.
Sure. So, I mean, the reason this started in the first place is, I guess, really started when I moved to town 16 years ago, and our current facility then was 22, 23 years old.
Sure.
And it was already kind of marginal in terms of its usability. And when I first came to town, I asked, where can you swim? Because I've been a swimmer since I was 18.
Right.
And I had a hard time finding anyone who could tell me where the swimming pool was. And
We
eventually
think
I
there's
learned
a
that there
pool.
was one at the middle school. And
Yeah.
I've been swimming there for 16 years, and it's been fine. But over those 16 years, I've kind of watched the infrastructure slowly kind of crumble, and
Sure.
a lot of repairs needing to happen. And we can talk more about that. But that was the thing that first got me interested, especially when we tried to hold swim meets for our youth teams.
Right.
It's a 6-meter narrow lane pool, or a 6-lane narrow pool that just was not all that workable
Sure.
for any of the meets that we did. And one meet we had, in fact, the lighting system up in the balcony, that balcony holds about 40 or 50 people, actually came undone and fell and hit people on the head and
Holy
caused some
cow.
minor injuries. It was really an interesting
Sheesh.
thing. But so there was that. And I guess the other and maybe even more important thing to me is in my practice, I so frequently, daily, have conversations with people who have orthopedic problems
Sure.
and issues that really want to lose weight and really want to get healthy and really want to get over their diabetes, or at least make an improvement in it, but have no avenue to do that, to exercise.
Yeah, tell them to go out and pound the pavement on a jog probably isn't always their best mode.
They just can't, and
Right.
I totally get it. I
Right.
mean, there's pain with,
Right.
with osteoarthritis and other problems. And what I've always kind of said is what you would really benefit from is some water therapy, water
Right.
aerobics, water walking. And, of course, the response is always the same. That I'd be interested, but there's nowhere for me to do
Yeah,
that.
sounds good, but I can't do it anywhere.
I can't do it here
Sure.
in the valley. And a lot of people say, and I don't want to drive up to Camas to do that.
Sure.
It's just too far for
Sure.
that hour that I have to do it. And so for all of those reasons, I thought, something's got to be done. Something different needs to happen in the valley for all of these and many other people who could benefit from aquatics. And so we got together a group of people who were kind of the same mind that something needed to change. And the first thing we decided to do was make sure there was support in the community for
Sure,
this.
sure.
And so we raised money and commissioned a Dan Jones poll that had a plus or minus 4% error rate. 400 people were polled and asked those very questions. Would you? We asked a lot of questions, but one of them was, how likely would you or someone in your household be to use a facility if it were built? And we had, when all was said and done, I have those numbers here, I think, with me. A total of 56% said they would use it several times a week. We had 15% say once a week, 18% say a few times a month, and 3% that said they would use it monthly. So really those numbers come up to 98% that someone, either them or someone in their household, would use the facility.
Right.
And we thought that was important. We asked another question of how high a priority is a new aquatic center, and we had 33% who felt it was high priority, and 37% who felt it was a very high priority, and 19% who had it as a medium priority. So that came out to 89% thought it was
At least a medium priority or above.
or higher.
Right.
And then the last question we asked is how likely you'd be to vote for a new aquatic center if it were on the bond tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that number I don't have right in front of me, but it was about 67% said they would definitely or probably vote for a new aquatics facility if it were built.
And when did we run that poll?
That was 4 years ago. That was about 4.5 years ago, the end of 2009, first of 2010.
Okay. And we've only had growth since then.
It's only grown since then, and we felt that was enough of a mandate to go ahead and move forward.
Sure.
With getting together a bigger group and actually moving forward, trying to make a plan to make it happen.
Right. And that's been 4 years in the making.
Yeah, it's actually been, but when all was said and done, we're at 6 years now that this has been that we've been trying to get it to this point.
That's a long time.
It is, yeah. I've learned a lot of interesting lessons over those 6 years.
I can imagine. So then after that, what we do is we look, and I guess one thing that people always ask me, right, is cost, right? How much is it going to cost? And we've got numbers coming from your group and other numbers coming from other groups and other, and so I guess the first thing we have to say is, and really realize that you can't say anything 100%, right? Because we're just trying to do the legwork and try to estimate and say, here's about what it would be if we tried to start building tomorrow. Right. But tell me, I know you guys did a ton of work to try to get your number right around where you think it would be. Tell me kind of all that took place with that.
Sure, and I can kind of give you the details of the numbers. Well, in the end, what we've got, and maybe it's good to know exactly what it is that the money is going for.
Right.
Originally, we had planned to do an aquatics facility, but as things have gotten closer and moved along, it's also become very clear that we're running low on field space.
Sure.
And that's been another concern. Parks and Rec says that they will be turning kids away probably as early as next year, or putting them on waiting lists at least for baseball. Soccer's not far behind. People are already on waiting lists for swim programs.
Sure.
And so in the end, what this has turned into is a 34-acre sports complex,
right,
that's on the old county fairground property. And as part of that, we have the Aquatic Center, and I'll go through the numbers on that, but also a fields complex that involves two baseball quads, 4 fields each.
Yeah.
So 8 baseball fields and 3 competition soccer fields. And that's what's the proposal. So we'll turn all of those 33 unused acres now owned by the county into that complex.
Yeah.
So the cost and what the bond is asking for, what the people would be voting on, is $24,414,000. $19.1 million of that is for the aquatics facility, and then $5.3 million of that is for the fields and everything else in that 33 acres. So that's the total cost of the bond.
That's if we had cash right now, which I don't have that kind of money, but
right.
But if we said, hey, let's just pay for it outright, that's what it would be.
That's what it would be.
Okay.
That's right.
I did want to talk about the fields a little bit. I'm one that lives close to over there, and so anybody that doesn't think that the fields get used very often don't live over there, because I'll tell you that I'm always surprised, almost amazed, when I'm going by all the time, and I mean, they are just full. And so sometimes I've seen people say, oh, I don't know if our fields get used that much, but I know especially for soccer tournaments, when we're trying to bring people up here to do big tournaments, soccer's getting a little bit bigger, I think, in the valley than it even had been. You see some of these like makeshift fields that they're trying to throw together, and I just think professionalism, right, and putting our best foot forward type of thing. If we had that additional space, I think we could get more of those things up.
Well, I think that's the situation now, and so you wonder 3 years ago, or 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when this valley has increased substantially, we need them now, let alone then.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we're hoping that this will give us some room for growth in the future.
Now, the one other question I get quite a bit is, what's our time frame here? Let's say that tomorrow's the vote and it goes through and people cheer, and the ones that want it are quite happy about it. Then kind of what's our time frame? Do you even know much of that?
I have a general sense of it, and I think that the fields complex itself could probably be feasibly up and being used within a year of the vote happening. The Aquatic Center, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it would be somewhere between 18 and 24 months to get completely finished.
So about a year and a half to 2. I think that's kind of what people would think is about 2 years.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If we came with hammers, can we make that faster? Or?
You bet. Come on over. Let's get to work.
Fantastic. And so I guess talking on that and just knowing, again, where all those numbers come from, that kind of thing, household-wise, per year, per month, whatever you want to break it down to, what are we looking at as far as an increase?
Yeah, when we talk about the money, $24 million, it sounds like a huge project. And let's not beat around the bush. It is.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and it's a big expense and a big facility. But when you break it down per household, the numbers seem a little bit more reasonable. And we've put these numbers very carefully, or had them worked out very carefully. And what it comes out to right now is for the bond for a median household price of $275,000, which is the median household price.
That's where
in Wasatch
average
County.
is around here.
Right. The assessed value.
Right.
Of course, the real value is higher than that. But,
Right.
the cost would be $84.13 per year. For that average family in terms of cost to them and taxes.
Right.
And that comes out to, probably about $6.50 a month.
I'm not good at math.
Yeah, pretty close to that. And that number has actually been slowly decreasing over the last year and a half as the population of the valley has increased.
So we had the same estimate, and then as we, what do you do yearly? Take a look at what the population is or how many property taxpayers there are.
Exactly. As the number of taxpayers move into the valley,
Right.
that number gets watered down and distributed to more and more
Right,
people. And
right.
so overall per person it becomes less. And that's gone down 11% in the past year.
Yeah, and that's just in a year.
Right.
And we only expect the growth to happen even more. So, so obviously there are people out there. One of the biggest, complaints, or one of the biggest, I guess, arguments against can say, well, you're asking the whole community to pay for something that not everyone's going to use, right? I mean, that's something that I think I hear quite a bit.
Right.
And in fact, I guess, and you had your numbers, where you did your poll 4 years ago, but there are other people coming out with other things and polls that they've done and said that average in a community like this would be more around 25 to 30% usage.
Yeah, when we did our numbers, we have to look at the language we use. We said, how likely would either you or someone in your household be to use that?
Right.
Not necessarily you yourself, but how likely somebody in your household. And that's where our numbers came up that showed 92% at least monthly.
So maybe mom and dad aren't going to use it, but they're sure going to send the kids off.
Exactly, and
So
I'm
get
not
to the pool.
insensitive to that argument that
Sure.
hey, I don't plan to use the pool, but I'm going to be paying money,
Right.
increased money in taxes. And I guess if I can respond to that,
Sure.
I guess my response would be, you may not, although I think people will be surprised how many when they see kind of what our design is and,
Yeah.
and how many different things are offered through that design, would actually end up using it. But they may not, but their children may,
Yeah.
their grandchildren may. And I guess even for those who never step foot on those 33 acres that we plan to develop, I guess my point would be that if they're not, well, maybe that chiropractor who came to town and brought his skills and fixed their back,
Yeah.
his kids probably may.
Yeah.
Or the police officer who's protecting them, his kids definitely will
Right.
come. And maybe the restaurant owner who was attracted here when he looked
Because
at
of
different areas
that
to come,
complex.
he kind of looked and said, okay, do I have enough field space for my kids who like to play soccer?
Right.
So it's kind of it's a benefits the whole community. So
Right.
even if you never set foot on those 33 acres, well, you're still getting an indirect benefit in one way or the other.
Yeah. The thing I laugh about is if a poll came around right now and asked if I would eat at a Vietnamese restaurant, I don't know if I would say yes or no. But until the dang thing's here, I don't, what if it gets built and everyone says how amazing it is and the price is reasonable, I might say today that I don't know if I would eat Vietnamese food, probably not, check the no button. But then let's say it gets built and there's all this buzz around it and people say, hey, you really got to go check that place out. I think that kind of hypothetical nature of that question is a little bit harder to say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to use it and, pound my fist on a table. But then when reality comes and the thing's built and it's as beautiful as the plans say that it's going to be, I think it's hard to say, oh, maybe I'm not going to use it.
Right.
I guess if people are listening right now and want to kind of check out the design, tell me where they can go to look for it. Where's the best place?
Yeah, so our website is I think very well developed and has all the information that you could possibly want in terms of costs, design, everything at healthywasatch.com.
Healthywasatch.com.
And that has is just full of good usable information.
Sure.
And the design is on there, and we can talk about kind of what the design is.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea, because I will say that a lot of people that I talk to say, oh yeah, it sounds like a good idea, or I don't know if I want that type of thing. And I'm like, well, what do you like about the design? Like, oh, I don't know what the design is.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of kind of talk and speculation about how best to go about this. We've had people say, well, why not just build a less expensive competition only pill. Too close to medicine, right? Competition.
You're going back to
only
the
pool.
office.
Yeah. Competition only pool, and maybe even have the school district do that. But
Sure.
I've had a lot of talks with Superintendent Shoemaker, and the school district really has no interest in themselves taking on the job of building what would be a $5 to $10 million competition
Sure.
pool to meet the needs of the swim and youth programs. And so I think even the county council, the school board and the school superintendent are kind of holding their breath, hoping.
Right.
I hope I can speak for them, hoping that this will happen, because I don't think they have a good, plan B if this doesn't go through, because the current pool is really on its last leg.
Well, and maybe let's talk about that, the swim program in the Valley and how it's grown and where it is. I mean, I don't know if people know how prolific of a program this is. I mean, really, we've won state titles recently as 2 years ago. I think both boys and girls. Maybe that was 3 years ago. Now I can't remember. I should probably have looked that up. But very, 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 very competitive. Now it's become something where the older siblings are doing it in high school, and some of the younger siblings are wanting to get involved in it. And like you say, we're having to turn some of these kids away because there isn't the facility for that type of program.
Yeah, and I don't want to sell this as just a pool for the high school, because that's only one very small component. But the high school team this year has 80 kids participating.
Yeah.
When you divide that, those kids up into 6 small lanes that we have right now, they're swimming 10 to 15 kids per lane. And if you've ever tried lap swimming with 3 in a lane, it's pretty difficult.
You're already getting kicked in the face.
When you have 10 to 15, it's nearly impossible. So yeah, I mean, the high school definitely, could benefit from something like this. And we have a huge youth swim program, both youth swim teams and just the school learn to swim programs.
Right.
Our current youth swim teams are on a waiting list. Most of them are getting, they have to try out and see what their skills are.
Yeah,
and if they're not pretty much immediately ready, then they get put on a waiting list because there just isn't room.
Sure.
Right now to add more kids.
So let's talk the design. Let's give people a little bit of an idea of what it's going to look like.
So our pool is a 3-pool complex, and this has been a long time in design, and we've made some changes to it over time, and we can talk about what we've kept and what we've gotten rid of. But basically, there's 3 pools. The main pool is a competition pool. It's a 25. It's what we call a stretch 25 pool, meaning it's 35 meters long. There is a 25-yard, 10-lane competition pool, and that's a great size for big meets. We can actually attract a number of meets that way. And then there's a floating bulkhead that separates 4 more warm-up and warm-down lanes. And for a swim meet, that's great because you can have the competition going while other kids are warming up and warming down in this other section of the same pool.
Right.
More importantly to me, though, is that by having a stretch 25 with these 2 separate parts of the pool, you can program 2 different things at once all day long.
Cool.
You can have the swim team going in one main section. You can have, a master's team going in the other. You can have a kayak class going in one while, something else is happening in the other. So just in the competition pool, we can always have dual programming at once.
So we wouldn't have, I've been into Camas before when they kind of shut down their main pool where you can do the diving boards and things like that because they've got lap swimming or they've got something going on.
Exactly.
And something like that doesn't have to happen here.
Right. This stretch pool allows for to be able to do 2 things at once.
Sure. That's great.
So that's the competition pool. That's a colder pool. It's usually 82 degrees. It's cool.
Yeah.
Purposely for lap swimming and racing. The second pool would be a kids' play pool, very similar to Camas in our design.
Sure.
Water slide, possibly 2. The only thing we've designed in is a bigger lazy river.
Okay.
Which is a kind of a small corridor, I don't know what better word to use, that has a current against it so that you can walk against the current. And this is the part that I love for all these people I talked about who have orthopedic issues and need to exercise. They'll actually be able to walk in the water.
Right.
And use this lazy river.
I know, maybe we should have a better name for it.
Yeah, maybe a not so lazy
not
river.
so lazy.
An active person river. But that's the second component, and that will be a warmer temperature. That's usually 88 to 89 degrees,
Okay.
comfortable, like Camas.
Sure.
And the third pool, which I think is at least as important as the other two, maybe more so in some ways, is a smaller 4-lane warm water therapy pool.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that can happen in that pool. For those who want a lap swim but don't want an 82-degree cold water, they can use that pool for that. Great for swim lessons for kids who, right now when they go to our pool at 82 degrees, they sit and shiver the whole time.
It's
'cause
true.
It's cold.
Yeah.
An 89-degree pool would be comfortable for swim lessons. We can do physical therapy. We can do water aerobics in a warmer temperature.
Yeah.
That can be programmed to do so many different things. That's the third component. That's the one thing that the Camas Aquatic Center doesn't have that we've kind of designed in to our pool. And so part of the reason is we want to make sure that everybody in the community can use this, and we can program 4 or 5 different events happening all at once.
Yeah.
But part of it, the reason for these 3 pools as opposed to just a competition pool, is that competition pools don't make money.
Right.
By nature, they just do not make money. What brings in the revenue and helps pay the maintenance and operations costs are the other 2 pools.
Right.
The ones where the families can come and bring their kids, and the therapy pool. And so that's another reason, is they're both revenue generators.
Right. I guess I think of so many visitors that come to the valley, that are staying at some of the resorts and things like that, and they have some facilities themselves. But I mean, you put something like this in town, and it makes for a very easy, even in the wintertime, right? Ski one day, and at nighttime, hey, we're going to go over and hit the pool and hit the water slides. Kids are going to have a good time, type of thing. I think you'll see a lot of people that are just up here visiting, I think, want to use it also.
Right, and that's been one of the biggest reasons that we've tried to make it. That's one of the biggest reasons it is the size that it is.
Right.
It's because we want to both accommodate the entire community and be able to afford to pay for it in terms of maintenance and operations.
Again, if you haven't seen the design, I think that's something you should definitely go and check out. HealthyWasatch.com is the website. There's a lot of information there, stuff that we've already talked about, stuff that we haven't talked about, as far as the cost and everything. But let's talk about the vote. Let's talk about when that all starts. I know, I saw a sign, actually, and had to kind of snicker. I can't even remember where it was now, but I was driving or something. I saw this sign that says, "Didn't vote," with a question mark. And then it says, "The government thanks you." Right? And I don't really know what that means. But I will say that there is that thing that whether someone is for or against something, unless they make their voice counted on a ballot, then it doesn't really matter. So we can say how much we want it. We can say how much we don't want it. But until we actually get out and say, hey, we do or we don't, and put it down as a vote, then we don't really have a voice at that point. Right, and I think one of the interesting things that I've seen in this valley is we're such a close-knit community. It is kind of that smaller town feel. I grew up in a bigger town, and so coming here was small for me. Some people say it's bigger than it used to be, which is probably true, but it's still small for me. And our voter turnout is not great, traditionally. And so I guess that's one thing, too, that I wanted to impress is if, and not just this issue, there are other people being elected and things like that, but let's do our diligence as people of a community, and let's go out and vote. I know the early voting starts this coming Tuesday, so not in too long. I think the date you said was the 21st. And that runs for, a week or so? I can't remember how long they keep early voting open.
I'm pretty sure.
And then the actual election day is the 2nd or 3rd of November. That's something else that I should have looked up before.
4th of November.
4th.
I've got it memorized, believe me.
Sheesh. That's why I'm glad you're here. So that's a Tuesday. I mean, I know it's the first Tuesday of November. I just didn't know what the actual date would be. But so the 4th is when actual voting happens. So let's talk about voter registration. Let's make sure that people know that they're ready, that they can go out and they can vote, even starting in their early vote. Is that a link maybe that you guys, I know you've put a link out before, I've seen on Facebook, or at least the Healthy Wasatch group has. Is that something people can find on the website also, or is that something they need to go and search out somewhere else?
Yeah, no, there is a link to that early voting registration. If you want to go right to the website, it's vote.utah.com.
Okay.
No,
.gov probably. Yeah.
.gov.
Yeah.
And you can get all the information there. And our website also has a link to that.
Okay.
And you mentioned being informed, I think, about voting and about going to vote informed. And I did want to mention that we've had a number of different question and answer meetings up to now, because we want everybody to have their questions answered. And I just might mention that there are 2 more coming up. There is a public meeting that is going to be sponsored by Parks and Rec, purely informational from their standpoint, a neutral meeting for sure, and that is Wednesday, October 22nd at 6 p.m., and that's going to be held at the county building, which is 25 North Main.
Okay.
And then we will have our specific group will have another question and answer session where we're going to try to just alleviate any last concerns or questions, and that's Wednesday, October 29th at 7 p.m., and that's at the Senior Citizen Center. So there's still those 2 opportunities to come out and ask questions.
And I think for sure it's important to note that's for people to come and ask questions. I mean, it really is the less you know, the less informed you are, and you heard something great and somebody said, hey, that's not true, or vice versa. Good to go to the source and say, hey, let's get those questions answered.
Yeah.
And I think bring any of those questions you have, and then you can weigh and make that good decision for sure. And then vote, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's the critical thing. I think you've got to vote.
No matter what, right? We want people to vote. We don't want it to be decided by, I don't even know what the numbers are, but usually I know it's around, even when we have big elections, a couple of years ago, we're voting for a president, still wasn't very high. And so this is one of those kind of off years that people say, man, I mean, it even gets lower because there aren't really a ton of things actually to vote for. So this show itself doesn't usually get very political. I myself don't try to get very political, but I am definitely a proponent of doing that civic duty and getting out and voting for things, whether you want them or not. At least get your voice heard for sure. Tell me any other last-minute things, any other things you want to talk about the pool. This isn't our whole conversation because, again, like I say, I want people to get to know you as far as a practitioner also. But tell me anything else you got there burning.
I have 2 burning things I want to talk about. One is there's been a lot of information and misinformation out there about maintenance and operations about the pool, and I wanted to clarify that.
Great.
We've done very careful analysis using actually 10 other facilities of similar size in similar communities to kind of come up with our numbers. And the numbers are this, and that is that the maintenance operations per year is estimated to be right around $1 million.
Okay.
No pool in the state really can run in the black. Unfortunately, swimming pools just can't. They're expensive to use and to maintain. Our numbers are that we will generate $644,000 of that in return in gate receipts, and most importantly, we have a $210,000 commitment from the school district.
Sure.
That was voted on and passed and is in writing.
Because they won't have to then maintain the current pool.
They voted they'll put all their current maintenance and operations money towards the new pool if it is voted on. And they did that on the strength of the argument that they'll get a heck of a lot more for their $210,000 in this pool than they are getting currently. So that leaves a shortfall of $355,000, and that's about what a well-run pool usually comes up with in the shortfall. So as part of this bond proposal, and I think it's important everyone knows what's part of that proposal. There is a proposed mill levy tax increase of up to $500,000.
Okay.
That will cover the shortfall for the maintenance and operations of the pool. Our estimation is we'll not need all of that.
Right.
We'll need about $355,000 of that. Camas, for example, their maintenance and operations cost for the aquatics part of their
because they've got a lot of other
operations. They have a lot of other operations happening in that facility. Is about $800,000.
Okay.
Our pool is a little bit bigger. I think our numbers are pretty close and also correspond with these others that we've compared to.
Now that changes. So we talk about that 8413. That's not included in that then.
So the total actually that is, and the numbers are, and maybe I misled on that. The total numbers for the bond at 6448.
Oh, okay.
For the maintenance and operations of $500,000, and again, we won't probably
we
need
don't
all
think
of that,
we'll need that.
Is $1965. So the $84.13 per year, I should say, per year.
$6 and something per month.
per year includes both maintenance and operations.
Perfect. So I mean that's and I think that's definitely a good thing to clarify is when we're talking that number, that's and you say, yeah, there could be another increase with the $500,000 if we even need that, which hopefully we wouldn't. But that $84 then could even come down, probably not huge amount, but still from there.
And as the bond gets paid off and it goes away over the next 20 years, of course, that's going to go way down, and that'll just be the M&O fee after that.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess, the one thing I wanted to clarify. And I guess the other is just to say that this is kind of the opportunity. We've been 6 years in the process of getting to this point. I am definitely not a politician. I had no idea when I started this kind of
it would turn you into
what I was getting myself into. But I think I've had people say, well, let's go back, tweak it, come back next year, try again. I think that's probably not in the cards. I mean, this is the opportunity if people are for having an aquatics facility sometime in the next, I don't know, decade.
Right.
I think this is the opportunity. If it doesn't happen now, it could be quite some time before the opportunity for more field space and
because writing a bond, all that kind of stuff, like you say, I mean, 6 years in the making. So yeah, if we wanted to go back and tweak, quote unquote, like you say, it's not just something you open up a Word document and cut and paste a few things.
We redo it all. We go back to the county council and work through them politically to try to get it on the bond again for some time in the future. And quite honestly, I don't have plans to make that happen. This is kind of this is my go.
Somebody else might have to do it, and they'll have to start from scratch, and it'll be another 6 years or so.
So I want people to kind of look and say, even if you feel like we don't need it right at the moment, do we need it 5 years from now? Do we need it 10 years from now?
Yeah.
If so, this is the time. Our construction costs, the interest rates are 3%.
Yeah.
Construction costs are relatively low. It won't stay that.
That's only going to go up for sure. And so this, even if we built the same thing in 10 years, it's going to cost us
substantially more money.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all that information. I'll tell you, I know there's a lot of people out there. Like I say, it's a very heated debate on both sides.
It is.
And I think the key is the information. And come and get your questions answered. And I guess the last thing I wanted to say too about it is if you vote no, feel free, please, still to use it if it does pass. I know there are some people that I've talked to that said, I would never use it, my kids would never use it. But I really think once it gets put together and it's such a great facility, I don't want those people to feel like they can't come and use it.
Definitely.
So let's make sure that once that happens. So anyway, so that's coming up really, really soon, guys. Early voting next Tuesday, and then I guess that would give us, 3 weeks until the actual election day.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, make your voice heard again. Dr. Tayler, sorry that we've taken so much time talking about that. I know that's kind of your day-to-day anyway right now.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
But let's go into the practice a little bit also. You say you kind of do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then that's kind of what your passion is. Tell me, if you just had, again, this show really at its core, and what I wanted to do is just give people these ideas and say, hey, if we could just tweak, this and do this a little bit more, or try to do this a little bit less, we could impact our health in such a great manner. So what's something that you feel like, everybody that comes into your office, whether they're 4 or 40 or 80, maybe what's something that each person can kind of do a little bit more, maybe a little bit less? What do you like to counsel people to do to just optimize their health?
Yeah, my answer is going to sound kind of funny. It's no secret that I love triathlons. I love to race and ride my bike and swim. But what I tell my patients, and what I think is true, is that everybody needs to be a multi-sport athlete.
Yeah. I
know that sounds funny. How does that work? And what I mean by that is not necessarily just swimming, biking, and running. But I think the critical thing is to have several different interests, because the weather changes. You can't do the same thing all year round. So that could be swim, maybe walk, and maybe play golf, or walk at the rec center, swim and play pickleball. I mean, I don't know what those three things are, but I think if everybody kind of has several interests, some of which may not involve weight bearing,
right,
that allow them to kind of do different things depending on how they're feeling and how the season is and what's available, and then just do something consistently. Really, in the end, the way to become fit and the way to lose weight is to be consistent at it.
Right. And
45 to 60 minutes.
And if
a
you
day.
have some of these things, different things that you like. So let's say I'm a runner myself. I like to bike. I like to swim also. In fact, we're going to talk triathlon here in 1 second. But there are some days where I'm like, man, I'm just not feeling the run.
Exactly.
And instead of not doing anything, then I say, well, why don't I do something else that I haven't done in a little while that I might enjoy also? I think it's great advice for sure. And I think even the kids, my kids some days love to run around and kick the soccer ball, and other days it doesn't interest them. And so instead of, I guess if they don't want to play soccer, I guess they can play video games. Like, hey, well, then let's maybe do something else too.
It avoids injuries too,
Yeah,
if
sure.
you're not doing the same thing day in, day out.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. So what I want to say, and I guess we're not quite out of time yet. Luckily, we're getting close, but triathlon, let's talk about this because I've always wanted to have one here in the Valley. I don't know if there has been before, and we haven't done them in a little while, but here's what I want to say is if and when this bond passes and we get this, what are your plans on making sure that we bring a triathlon here to Heber?
That's been up and running that idea has been up and running for a long time. One of the biggest triathlons used to be, and I remember participating in 1984, was the Heber Valley Triathlon.
Wow.
And it was awesome. It was a great race. It was one of the biggest ones in the state, and it's just kind of has died away over time, and several iterations of this have kind of come and gone.
Right.
But I think with something like this, we may or may not use an aquatics facility.
Right.
Often it's more of one of the open water, the Deer Creek or one of the other lakes. But I think this would be a perfect valley for it. And there is talk among a number of us who want to see that happen.
Yeah.
And I think it very well could.
Well, and I'll tell you that one of the first triathlons I did was a small one, right? A lot of people do start with these sprints because anytime I talk triathlons, people say, well, I don't swim, that's their thing.
Right.
And usually what I say is most people just try not to die in the swim. It's not like you got all these competitive swimmers. It's like, hey, we all float along, there's buoys and things like that along the way.
Right.
Just get out of the water alive and then go and do the other
The rest
thing.
is easy, right?
But one of the first ones I did was a pool swim. It was small. I can't even remember the distances, but I'll tell you, when I heard that you could do a lap swim in a pool for 350 meters or something like that, and then get out and then go do the other distances, that kind of was what really pushed me to actually start to change my own lifestyle and say, hey, that's something that I could really prepare for and try to do. And so that's something I'm interested in bringing, and again, I have no idea how to do it. But I want you to know that if you want some help in that, I'm very, very interested, even sponsorship, that kind of thing, so for sure. I don't think I can beat you, but
You never know.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of other things I wanted to ask you just about your practice. But I think that's probably a good place to stop. Really, is think of some things. I guess my question to you is, when it does get wintertime, is that when you beef up your swimming, or what do you usually do in the colder?
Yeah, so during the winter, I swim year round. That's the one thing that I do religiously all year because it's available. But I've actually fallen in love with cross country skiing. So
really?
I'm over at Soldier Hollow.
That's pretty rough.
Days a week. Oh, it's wonderful. World class facility. Just down the street.
Just right here for sure.
Yeah.
And I think cross country skiing is something I start sweating faster than doing anything else.
It's harder than any other.
Even in
I
the
do.
snow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard.
Oh, sheesh. Well, anyway, appreciate you coming on, Dr. Tayler. Great information. Anyone that has questions, again, feel free to come to some of these meetings. Go to the website, get informed. The one thing I will say about the group, obviously you guys are for the pool, but I'll tell you, as far as doing your homework and having those numbers be where they need to be, I think you guys really have put together the time. And so I guess I would just caution anybody out there that's read other numbers is to find out how those numbers came to be, instead of just saying, oh, wow, well, it's more realistic or whatever some of the language is being used. How did you come up with this number, and why is it different? Because I'll tell you that the research that you guys have done is really quite extensive. And so if somebody comes out with different numbers and their research isn't as extensive, then I think we can automatically, or maybe not automatically, but for sure be very sure that the numbers that people have worked harder on are probably a little more correct. So anyway, like I say, it's a very not unbiased opinion because I'm going to vote yes, but hopefully people get informed. They'll go out and vote. And when all is said and done, I say then we can get back to blaming, Obama and Big Pharma for everything else instead of the Aquatic Center. So, anyway, another great day here in the Valley. Get out and be healthy. Go find a few fun things that you like to do. If you're a runner, go try swimming. If you're a swimmer, go try, I don't know, pickleball. That's something that I've heard of, I'm telling you. So do something for yourself, do something for your health for sure if you do it for no other reason, not just because I or Dr. Tayler told you to do it, just for the health of it. Thank you for listening.